movie night, unfortunately, Jerry gets to pick most of the movies. And normally they consist of some sort of military. And I love my husband, and so I allow him to pick the movies. And although I think when the movie starts, this is not going to be a good movie, by the end of it, I'm crying and want to see it again. But there was one particular movie that really struck my heart. And it's the story of Hacksaw Ridge. And I'm sure we all know the story. Doss saved 75 men that day on Hacksaw Ridge. And he did it as a conscientious soldier, which means he didn't have a gun. But he saved 75 men in one night. He had a heart full of love, and he had a heart of God. Because he knew the day he was saved that he was to save others. And maybe not on a hill with guns firing, but he was supposed to save others for Christ. And it struck me so hard, and I just started thinking about when I got saved. Because I remember it was March, don't remember the exact day, but I was pregnant with my daughter, and I was ready to be done. I was over it. And I remember going to the altar, and I couldn't even kneel because I was so pregnant. But God saved me anyway. And seeing the story really struck my heart, because if he could save 75 men, then we as Christians should be willing to go and save people as well. So this song is simply called I Got Saved. There is a river of gladness that pours from Emmanuel's veins. The sinner's plunged beneath the flood and got saved. Since then I walk in forgiveness. All of my guilt was erased. The chains of the past are broken at last. I got saved. Oh, I got saved. I'm undone by the mercy of Jesus. I'm undone by the goodness of the Lord. I'm restored and made right. He got a hold of my life. I've got Jesus. How could I want more? I'm undone by the goodness of the Lord. I'm restored and made right. He got a hold of my life. I've got Jesus. How could I want more? I'm undone by the mercy
Lord did, but he looked so good in that pink blazer. You never said that about me, so I'll tell you. Hey, Denver, I hope you're watching. I didn't get the same reaction. It's not working for me. It's not working for me. I'll just go back to being old and bored. Oh, listen. Take your Bible and turn to the book of Luke. Luke chapter 2. And I want us to look at something today. Every time that God does things and sets them free, you better pay attention to it.
Amen.
Because right now, well, you know this, when Isaiah saw the Lord in Isaiah 6, and he saw the Lord high and lifted up, he cried, holy, holy, holy. If you look at Revelation, chapter 4, what are they doing around the throne? They're saying, holy, holy, holy. There is a thing that Jesus said 3 times in 3 different occasions that I want us to focus today on. Because I'm going to tell you, Vita, I've never seen a time that I think the church is as disoriented, as discouraged, and absolutely as defeated as we are in America right now. And you know what I think it is? Y'all keep watching television. Have y'all got it figured out that television, and especially the news, is not in the business of promoting what God's up to? And if all you do is watch that and listen to those kinds of things, I promise you, you'll end up with your head down and thinking, okay, it's all lost. All is lost. Now, Jesus said to his disciples in Luke chapter 10, he got them together and he sent out the 70. And he says, look at it. He says, the fields are white in the harvest. He said, look, guys, look up. The fields, and with the grain in that day and time, when it got, they would plant, and 4 months later they would harvest. When they looked up and they would see that the fields were starting to turn white, you knew then it was time to harvest. He said, pray that the Lord of the harvest would send forth laborers. Now listen, guys, now make sure you catch this. I want to ask you, are there any fields in the world right now, given what you hear on television, that are white in the harvest? Anybody hear anything good? See, the way we would say it right now at my house, I don't have anything white in the harvest, but I've got pink eye, purple hull peas. I picked 2 bushel of them the other day, and all you had to do was look, and those hulls were purple, and I was like, oh, the field's purple in the harvest. Some of y'all are old enough to understand what Jesus is talking about. And some of you young folks, Adam, you may not understand this, but when your plant, it gets ripe at a certain time. And if you don't get, let's say, Silver Queen corn, if you don't get it out of the field when it's ready, what happens to it? You lose it. Looked up the other day, walking out early in the morning, and got tomatoes, and I picked like 25 tomatoes. What color were they? They were red. And it's easy to see what is it harvest time any place in the world? And the answer is absolutely yes. Got a missionary coming to speak to the ministers' meeting in September. He's in the West Bank. Anybody know what country that is? Israel. But are Israelis in the West Bank? Who lives in the West Bank? It's Palestinians, it's Muslims. And specifically Hamas, which is a terrorist organization, they've seen over 100,000 young Hamas men and women come to Christ in the last year's scripture. John Abate was over in Syria the other day. He's a guy that's a pastor in Louisiana. He was out in Texas. He's fairly well known in Southern Baptist life. Went over there on a mission trip in Syria. Now that's where the greatest conflict right now in America, in the world is. In Syria, they got ready to baptize 18 people, and they did it publicly. And there was 2 ISIS guys with guns over there watching them baptizing. And when they finished, those 2 ISIS guys came over and said, "We want to be baptized." And they said, "Do you understand that you being baptized probably means you're going to get killed?" And they said, "Yes. But we'd rather have the love of Jesus than the hatred of Islam." There's a medical doctor there in Syria, and they said to him, he's doing all this stuff, they said, "You've got the money and the means, why don't you leave Syria? You can get across the border." He said, "Are you kidding? What we prayed for, that something would break the back of ISIS. We've been praying that something would break the back of Islam. And ISIS shows up, and now nobody wants to be part of that. Nobody wants Islam because they're saying if that's Islam, we don't want any part of it." He says, just like the book of Acts, where people are coming to Christ in record numbers. They've never seen any kind of harvest like they're seeing right now in Iraq, in Iran, in Syria. How many of y'all have heard about that on the news? No, they're not going to tell you that. Matter of fact, there's an all-out war against Christianity right now. We've seen more martyrs, more people have been killed in the last 25 years than in the previous 1900 years in the name of Christ. Now, should we wring our hands? Do I want anybody to get killed? Absolutely not. But here's what I know. Somehow, the more you press Christianity, the better it does. It's just that in America, we seem to be more disoriented about it. But is anything happening good in America? Well, let me just say this. Is anything happening good in Bartow County? Mm-hmm. See, we've been praying, and we've been praying, and we've been praying. And all I want to do, I know this sounds crazy, is I want to look at the 3 occasions that Jesus said the fields are white unto harvest, because he said it 3 times. And then just tell you some stories about what God's up to around here. Because see, I know this. You don't hear it. And what you do hear comes off of television or the internet or whatever. So you have a tendency to think that's reality. And guys, I'm here to tell you today, reality is not CNN. Reality is God. Mm-hmm. And God is at work. He's alive. Jesus said in John 5:17, "My Father is always at his work, even to this day." And I'm telling you, God's at work and he's doing something. He's up to something in our midst. When he gathered his disciples together, see, we think that the final command came in Matthew 28, where he says, "Go make disciples of all nations." He had actually been saying it before he went to the cross. He gathered them together. 70 of them. He sent it out 2 by 2, and he says, "Listen, the fields are white unto harvest. Look up. The fields are white unto harvest." And I'm here to say, listen, it's 2017. There's more receptivity right now in Bartow County. There's more receptivity here than I've ever seen in my lifetime. I know that doesn't mean much to you, but I've been around a lot longer than you think. Because you weren't here this Sunday. I told him, I dye my hair gray. It makes my wife look younger. I'm older than you think I am. Now, let me get you a look. Verse 2 of chapter 10. "The harvest truly is great, but the laborers are few. Therefore pray that the Lord of harvest would send forth laborers out into the harvest." That's what Jesus said to us. So what should you be praying about at Walker's Crossroads? It's 2017. Look around. The fields are white unto harvest. But let me get you to look back at Matthew chapter 9. Matthew chapter 9 is this kind of crazy chapter. Jesus, heals a paralytic. Then Matthew follows him, who's a tax collector. Y'all understand tax collectors were not popular people then. I'm going to tell you, they hated tax collectors worse than we think of the IRS. You look down in verse 18. A man who's a ruler came to Jesus and he says, my daughter has just died. I mean, you're talking about somebody that's in trouble. His daughter has just died. And he said, listen, if you'll come, you can do something about it. Now that's faith. So Jesus starts going, and on his way there was a woman who had an issue of bleeding for 12 years, and she just thought to herself, all I've got to do is touch the hem of his garment. If I could just touch him. And Jesus went walking by, and she reached out and touched the hem of the garment, and instantly she was healed. You notice you've got a person who's got a death in the family, you've got a person who's got a medical issue. She reaches out, she gets healed. Jesus goes, tells everybody to leave the room, goes in. The daughter, little girl, comes back to life. He leaves there and is walking on the road, and two blind men are calling out to him. They're crying out to him, Jesus, Jesus. And Jesus said, what do you want with me? He said, we want our sight. So he gave them their sight. There's a man who couldn't speak. Demon possessed. Jesus cast out the demons. You see all these people with needs. Verse 35, it says, Then he went about to all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and preaching the gospel of the kingdom and healing every sickness and every disease among the people. But when he saw the multitudes, he was moved with compassion for them, because they were weary and scattered like sheep, having no shepherd. And then he said to his disciples, the harvest truly is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore pray that the Lord of the harvest would send forth laborers into his harvest. The other day, one of our churches was out visiting. They started prayer walking within a mile of the church. And they just started going and praying over every house. In 3 months they prayed. And then they went and knocked on doors. And then they did that, invited, just ministered to those people. Then they went 2 miles out and they were out knocking on doors. Knocked on a lady's house the other day. She was in her 50s. And she was hesitant. She finally opened the door, but there was a screen door there, and they started talking to her, and she finally opened the screen door, and here's what she said. She said, I guess I'm glad y'all came, because I had planned to commit suicide today. My 2 daughters committed suicide in the last 12 months, and I just was hurting, and I just was going to commit suicide today. They got to share the love of Jesus with her and minister to her. And guys, she's still alive and actually has a smile on her face, because Jesus is still in the business of healing folks. The other day, Steve McCombs, who's the missions minister at Tabernacle, a good friend of mine, and he heads up our missions team for the association. He walked out of his house to go to work, and he had a flat tire. He's got a fairly new truck, and he was like, what gives? How many of y'all have ever gotten frustrated when something goes wrong like that? So he said he jacked the truck up, put the spare on it, drove straight to the tire store. It's early in the morning. He walks in, sits down in the waiting room while they're messing with his tire, and there's one guy in the waiting room. He's sitting on the other side, and the guy starts talking to Steve, Steve just started talking to him, and man told him Steve was asking questions. He raises bulls and sells bulls. And finally the guy was in his 70s, he got around to asking Steve, he said, Steve, he said, what do you do? He said, I'm a pastor over at Tabernacle Baptist Church. And he said, the man's countenance just instantly changed. And he got up, walked across the room, and sat down next to him. He says, I've always wanted to ask a pastor this. Can I ask you a story? Ask you a question. Steve said, sure. He says, I was in Vietnam, and I know for certain, because I saw the bullet hit him, I know for certain I killed 13 people. and the last one was standing 4 feet from me and couldn't have been more than 16, 17 years old. He said, well, God, forgive me for that. Because I'm telling you, people are hurting. See, all these folks in the Bible, they're no different than we are today. People want some kind of answer. They want something real in their life. And Steve said, well, let me tell you a story about a man that he was about the business of persecuting and killing Christians. And he was on the road to Damascus. He told him about Saul and how God all of a sudden touched him and he got right. He told him about David. And the man looked at him and he said, thank you so much. And guys, for 40-something years, 50 years, he had carried that all of his life. And God set him free that morning. Steve looked at me and he says, you think it's any accident that my tire had a hole in it? Absolutely not. There was a divine appointment, and what that man needed was a person who was just open to being used by God to understand the fields are white unto harvest. There's people all over, all around. It's in white, it's in cars, but it's all over the United States. The more people keep trying to drown their misery in drugs, alcohol, sex, it doesn't matter, the worse the emptiness is. And what they're really needing is somebody just to say, you know what? Hey, there's this man named Jesus who can meet you where you are. I mean, Jesus, you look at this whole progression. All these people, somebody's daughter died. Somebody's had a medical issue of bleeding for 12 years. No doctor could help. Somebody was demon-possessed. 2 people were blind. I'm telling you, Jesus ministered, and it says that he looked at the whole multitude, and he ministered to them, and he said to his disciples, he turned to them, he says, guys, pay attention. Look, the fields are white unto harvest. And here's what I know about harvest time. There's a moment in time that you can harvest, and then you're going to miss it. We're right now in what I believe is the greatest harvest time that I know of in the last 100+ years in the United States. There's more people receptive. Oh, not it. Then listen, I didn't say they're receptive. They're showing up at church. You look at these people, none of them are found in the synagogue. Jesus met them as he walked down the road of life. The thing that has changed so much between 1955 and 1957 and 2017, in 1957, everybody used to go to church. The majority did. Now, they don't. But the need hadn't changed. And so it's imperative for us, and Jesus said, you know what? Listen, I went out the other day, and one of my rows, I had like 3 rows of Silver Queen corn, and they were just right. And I thought, oh, it's harvest time. I'm looking forward to eating fresh Silver Queen corn. So I went out on the porch, got this little screened-in back porch, and I sat there and looked at that Silver Queen corn, looked at it, and it jumped off the stalks, and it came running in. See, all of you that have ever done any kind of farming or gardening ought to understand this. You don't get to harvest unless you go to the harvest field. I'm telling you, these 4 walls, it's 2017, they are not the harvest field today.
Amen.
You've got to get out there where they are. And guys, I'm telling you, they're not functioning, they don't function like they did 40, 50 years ago. The other occasion, John chapter 4. Jesus said the same thing. Jesus was on his way to Galilee, but he went through Samaria. And what do y'all know about Samaria? All right, Jerusalem's here and Galilee's here, and in between was a little patch of land called Samaria. And the Jews thought that was the dirtiest, rottenest place in the world. You know why? Because the people that were there were half-breeds. They weren't true Jews. They were half Jews, half pagans. And so I mean, they walked around it. I mean, it took them an extra day travel. It's crazy. Jesus walks through Samaria, and at the Bible says in John 4, he says he goes to the well, and he sat down because he was tired. Now, just chase a rabbit. I'm always glad when I read that because I know if Jesus got tired, okay. If Jesus got tired, that's reality right there. But this woman came to the well. The disciples went into town to buy some food. This woman came to the well. What do y'all remember about that woman? Why didn't she go to the well first thing in the morning with all the other women? She what? Yeah. Because she wasn't just avoiding the crowd. They were avoiding her. She was the outcast because she'd been sleeping around with everybody's husband. And I'm here to tell you, the women used to go to the well together early in the morning. It was kind of their social time. But if you're the town slut and you're sleeping with everybody's husband, they don't let you hang out with the other women. You're the outcast. And so this woman comes in the middle of the day, and she starts talking to Jesus. And Jesus didn't look at her and think, oh, that's an adulterous woman. He said, that's a woman that needs to get right with God. And so he starts talking with her. He challenged her theology because her theology was wrong. And she goes running back into town, and she says, y'all got to come see a man that's told me everything I've ever done. Now, if you want to get a crowd, you let the town whore tell somebody that, okay, there's a man that knows everything I've been doing, and everybody's been running around her is going to show up. It's better than any reality TV show that you ever dreamed about. The whole town comes. And Jesus says to the disciples, he says, look guys, the fields are white unto harvest. The fields are white unto harvest. This woman got saved. Jesus talks to these people. A bunch of them got saved. He stayed there a couple of days in the world and got saved. See, the problem is not with the gospel. The problem is with the laborers. That's why he kept saying, we've got to have laborers that will go out into the harvest field. That's why the imperative thing is, it's great to come to church on Sunday morning, but this is not where the harvest field is. The harvest field is out yonder. And it's not with the people that look just like us. It's with people sometimes that have tattoos. It's with people that have all kinds of, if you did a background check on their criminal record, would be long. Or it's people that have been doing things that they don't want anybody to know about. Sin is abounding in the world we live in today. But I'm telling you, the gospel is too. The other day, one of our sheriff's deputies, who gets up every morning and he understands that he's a missionary sending to the harvest. He prays this every day. God, may I have the opportunity to talk to somebody today. That day he got assigned to an arrest warrant to go arrest a guy named Steve. I won't tell you his last name because it's a name that you would recognize. Because there's more than one in Bartow County, but I'll just use Steve Smith. He looks on the internet and sees this guy got tattoos from here. Everything he could see about this guy, he was tattooed. This deputy, he goes, knocks on this door, gets the address, knocks on the door. This guy comes to the door and he says, I'm looking for Steve Smith. The guy says, I'm Steve. He says, you don't look quite like the same guy. This guy only had tattoos from the neck down. But he said this, he said, it's been you before. He said, I've had a warrant served on me. I've spent time in jail. I got out a couple of years ago. They figured out he wasn't the right Steve, but this guy went on to